Good morning. I'm Beutner, Superintendent of Los Angeles Unified School District. Our school community is off this week on a much-needed break. I hope all of you are able to rest and spend time with your family. Amidst all of the uncertainty, we're reminded how important our loved ones are. I want to provide you with a quick recap of the past week and get into a bit of detail on our efforts to transition all students to online learning. We continue to provide a safety net to children and families even while schools are on break. Sometime this morning, our grab-and-go food centers will have provided more than 5 million meals since we opened them 3 weeks ago. Each day, Los Angeles Unified is helping more people than any other food bank in the country. About 2/3 of the meals are going to children, about 1/3 to adults, no questions asked. We're also providing food to people in the temporary homeless shelters the City of Los Angeles has set up. In addition, Los Angeles Unified donated 100,000 N95 masks to 10 local hospitals in the communities we serve, and will soon be working together with the City of Los Angeles to help provide child care for children of hospital staff. In these extraordinary circumstances, we'll do all we can to help those in need. To support these efforts to help those in need, Los Angeles Unified set up a charity, LA Students Most in Need. Last week, CBS 2, KCAL 9, iHeartMedia, and the Los Angeles Chargers hosted a fundraiser which raised almost $1.7 million, all of which is going straight to the relief efforts. Already more than 8,000 people have contributed, and I'm grateful for all of their support. Students and families and all we serve are trying to cope with the crisis, and for some, it's gotten worse as they've lost their jobs and the ability to provide for their families. The health crisis has become a community crisis, and many people are struggling with anxiety, stress, and feeling overwhelmed. We set up a hotline students and families can call for counseling and support. We're working to use video to connect the counselors with patients and expect to begin using that shortly. I encourage anyone who needs help to call. One way to find a few moments of escape from all the chaos outside is to watch with your family one of the student-centered learning shows we're providing on PBS. More than 200,000 people in the area are watching each day, and the programming has been adopted by school districts and PBS affiliates in more than 30 states. Even in the best of times, launching a comprehensive online learning program in the nation's second largest school district would be a monumental task, akin to landing on the moon. It would take years of careful planning, investment, training, and engagement with the entire school community. During extended school closures due to the coronavirus, Los Angeles Unified will be trying to do this in a matter of weeks because students most in need are counting on us. Equity shouldn't have to mean abandoning all students equally. It can mean giving all of them the same tools and access to realize their talents. The unfortunate reality is that Los Angeles Unified does not start this effort from a position of strength. Private schools in Los Angeles spend about $50,000 a year on each student. New York City public schools, about $30,000. But funding for Los Angeles Unified and our schools is only $17,000 per student. Chronic underfunding can be seen in school libraries without librarians, class sizes which are far too big, and the absence of much-needed tools and technologies for online learning. The online effort starts with connecting everyone, almost 500,000 students and their families, and the 75,000 employees of Los Angeles Unified who serve them. We're investing $100 million to provide the tools and the technology and created a partnership with a wireless company to make sure every student, irrespective of family circumstance, is connected. Our goal is to connect every student. As you can see in the chart, we're making progress. We started in high school, where students will be most able to learn independently, and should reach all elementary schools by May as devices arrive from supply lines around the world. Students and families can call our technology help desk with any questions about the technology and how to use it. A big challenge will be to connect some of our most vulnerable students, those living in deepest poverty, in the foster care system, or those whose families are experiencing homelessness. Many of them struggle to attend school in ordinary circumstances, and their lives have been made more difficult by this crisis. We're working with community organizations and others to reach every student. As more students are connected, we can begin to track their participation, starting with the basics. Have they logged in, and are they using the tools? This chart's only a snapshot. We'll be looking at other ways to measure engagement, like time spent and numbers of assignments turned in by students, and how students are participating in other areas like Zoom conference calls with teachers. It's important to note online learning is different than in a classroom setting. Even a seemingly simple attempt to compare attendance in schools to what might be comparable in remote learning is difficult. It's assumed if a child is in school, they're engaged in learning, though we know that's not always the case. It's more difficult to measure engagement and progress remotely. Merely logging in does not tell us anything more than the student turned on their computer. The absence of a login, when a student is reading a book or working on a writing assignment, can also leave a misleading digital footprint. We're working to connect all students and provide them with the best possible learning in this environment, including those learning English and those with learning difficulties and disabilities. This will be our greatest challenge, as the technologies and teaching practices are not well established in these areas. And there may be some students for whom there is no good substitute for face-to-face contact. Los Angeles Unified has been working with experts including Kristen Wright, Director of Special Education for the state of California, and the Council of Exceptional Children and other school districts to help develop approaches which can work. Occupational and physical therapists, as well as speech and language teachers, are providing services to students via teleconferencing. Educators are pre-recording specialized video lessons to meet individual student needs, and all are contacting students and families to ensure participation. The most important part of the shift online will be to help teachers adapt to the challenge of teaching differently. Each teacher starts from a different place and will need to be patient and flexible as we provide professional development. This will also need to be balanced with the demands on teachers of continuing to work with students and taking care of their own families all at the same time. As the chart shows, we're offering an extensive menu of courses to teachers, and almost half of the teachers have already taken part in 3 classes. We're still in the early days of this and are seeing amazing creativity, collaboration, and commitment from teachers to help their students learn in this new approach. We expect differences in schools as principals and teachers address the unique needs of their students. We're working to foster collaboration and sharing of good practice within schools and departments, as well as between schools. For example, a high school history department may agree on a certain approach for teachers in that school, but may also want to share its practice in APUS history with other high schools. Educators are also looking at ways to continue to provide some of the enrichment opportunities to groups of high school students which used to require physical gatherings. Online learning will create additional burden and complexity for students, families, and teachers, and is compounded by the extraordinary circumstances all are facing. Problems and opportunities will present themselves in equal measure. My recent conversation with the principal of Bell High School, Rafael Balderas, and 2 great teachers, Vivian Shadid Nasrallah and Matthew Moreno, about their progress in just these past few weeks is a good example of the ongoing effort by educators. Bell has almost 2,300 students, of whom 90% are from families living in poverty, and many lack access to technology and the internet at home. In other words, it's a typical high school in Los Angeles Unified. All of the teachers are using Schoology, as are 89% of students. Schoology is a knowledge-sharing platform which helps teachers share lesson plans and assignments with students, and vice versa. The team at Bell are working to get all students connected. You'll hear from our conversation themes which are consistent in all of our schools. Plans were in place before school closures to help students continue to learn. Educators are working to connect all students. Educators are finding creative ways to use various technologies to teach, and educators are flexible, adapting to the challenge, and through trial and error, addressing issues faced by teachers, students, and families. Please watch a short portion of the highlights of our conversation. What I thought what we might do first is just dive in. First question was, I know we're going to talk this morning about online, but I want to get some sense because I think each of the classroom educators and the principal, I know the first objective was to make sure every student went home with a learning plan while we transition this online.
I think what we initially tried to do was the same exact thing that we do in our classroom and just transfer it to the internet so students could download it off of Schoology. And it just didn't work.
I was reflecting on me trying to use technology and how can I connect with my students. And I was just thinking, I hope they're not going to replace us with that technology, that amazing technology. But just so you know, the love and the caring that we bring in a classroom is a whole different aspect. But it's amazing how much we are surrounded by a multitude of great technology resources out there to make our teaching even easier, maybe not easier, but more exciting, creative, interested for our students. And I'm not a tech savvy, even though I do use technology, but to that aspect and being able to transmit that and learn and being challenged and kind of force also to teach myself and be able to transmit it to the students.
Tell us a little about the academic decathlon.
Well, okay, so the competition was not canceled, and so we were meeting online every day for practice from 4 o'clock until it got done, and sometimes that was 8, 9, 10 o'clock, and also on Saturdays and Sundays, and still trying to keep up with our traditions of birthdays and things like that. But the students were participating, doing their practice quizzes, and we were reviewing the answers online with a different program other than Zoom. They're all gamers, so they wanted to use Discord. So they taught us how to use Discord. We became the students, and we adapted. Came in 7th.
Fantastic. That's really great. But it sounds like it's a process of trial and error. You try something. If it doesn't work, you quickly find something that will. And it sounds like students, families, teachers, everyone's got a voice in this to make sure we make it work for all.
For my French one, that's another example. They had to use what is essential to have at home during the COVID-19. And some of them, they created a virtual supermarket, a French virtual supermarket with a cash register making the actual sound. And then they're using their friends saying, okay, it's very important to have this and the food that are essential, the resources that are essential during COVID-19, all in French. But what was interesting to see is that the parents were involved in the video. The parents was maybe the cashier helping making the transaction. Even though they were speaking in English, the student is still using the target language.
That's really wonderful. I think we'd all echo the belief there is no substitute for learning in a classroom, but hopefully some of the things we're learning can come back to the classrooms with us and
Definitely.
make it even better.
I think one thing that students need to recognize is that the schools are there to support them. Their teachers are willing to work with them and make accommodations as needed. We know that everybody is going through hard times. I mean, the teachers as well, not just the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they are having some sort of problem that they don't feel that they can overcome, they really need to be able to feel they can reach out to the school, to the counselors, to the administration, the teacher, that maybe just the simple accommodation they can make to make their life easier. The stress isn't gonna help them in any way if they're just sitting on that problem and not speaking about it, because most of these problems that they're having school wise we can solve. We're adults and we're able to do that. We can make any decision that we need to make it work for them. Or they just need to know that we're on their team and we want to have them all be successful.
The list of challenges is long. This is new for all involved, students, families, and teachers, and we will run into problems, and it won't all go according to plan. But if we apply the same spirit of collaboration and problem solving as the educators, students, and families at Bell, we'll continue to make it better. We must aim high in all of our efforts, because the only thing certain if we don't, we won't get there. But we need to temper expectations about what is possible in a short period of time in these extraordinary circumstances. Some of the technologies like Schoology were not built to support 500,000 concurrent users. It needs to be made better, and we brought in a major tech company to help rebuild the system so it can support the increased volume of users. But this will take time. Certain students, those with IEPs and those learning English, for example, will be harder to serve, but we keep working at it and explore new ways to do the best we can for all students. Our youngest learners in elementary school will miss the classroom setting the most. The learning about literacy and math, as well as how to make friends and solve problems together. We're already planning for major new efforts to address the needs for elementary school students when we're able to return to schools. In the interim, I hope we can find a way to help restore the human connections for all of our students. We sometimes forget, amidst our focus on the 3 R's, that which is most essential for all children to feel safe, secure, and connected. There's no substitute for learning in a school setting, but the investment in the digital future of all students will help make sure there's opportunity to match the talent we know is in every student in every classroom, whether at school or at home. We'll return from spring break on Monday, April 13th, about a month after school facilities were closed. On the 13th, we'll talk about what the rest of the 2019-20 school year will look like, including things like graduation and financial assistance for college, as well as plans for the summer. It's clear that normal is not returning anytime soon. That should be obvious to all of us. But that statement raises more questions for schools than it answers. It's important we provide answers to many of the questions we will face if normal is a long way away. To our students and families who may be watching, we know it's difficult to juggle homeschooling while also dealing with the disruption this crisis is causing in your lives. Thank you for your continued patience and support. And to all my colleagues who are working to support students and families, thank you for your tireless efforts.